There he is, ladies and gentlemen, that big, beautiful bastard. Joe played tight end for a national champion football team, of which I cannot remember the name. Anyway, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the first sequence on how to take down a larger opponent. There's about a dozen different techniques going on right here, and we're going to break them all down one at a time.
You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
What is the first thing you think I want you to notice about this live roll? It's Joe's Nicky Rod impression. But what's the second thing you think I want you to notice? It's the height of the stance. Why are we standing so high, and what do you think allows us to stand so high? If you guess defense, give yourself a pat on the back. If you guess anything else, leave my channel forever. The limp leg specifically is the defensive tactic we're both relying on that allows us to stand so high. Standing high allows you to conserve energy, avoid guillotines. The limp leg also allows you to relax and attack because you're not worried at all about your opponent getting in on your legs. Here's Joe hitting it on me later on in the round, and Joe even hits it on another Division I wrestler who's 205 pounds, the Palestinian bear, John Rizgala, right here. This is one of the strongest human beings that has ever existed, and here's Joe limp-legging out effortlessly. The limp leg is not a bulletproof technique. No technique is. There are many layers to effective defense, but it is highly accessible. Case in point, here is Purple Belt Ryan with little to no wrestling experience hitting it on a current Division I wrestler. Highly effective, highly reliable. A quick word of caution, though standing high and relying on limp legs has many benefits, it comes with inherent vulnerabilities, namely the blast double. If your partner starts faking and feinting, that's your cue to abandon the energy-conserving high stance and get low in order to anticipate and defend the double leg. Additionally, just because you're low doesn't mean you'll defend the double, and conversely, just because you get doubled doesn't mean you'll lose the exchange. The point here is we want to anticipate and prepare for our opponent's movement as much as possible, and I happen to know Joe's not a huge double leg guy, so assuming a higher stance here is generally safe. Okay, let's get back into the roll. Let's fix the hair first. Now that we've covered the stance, let's get into our setup. This is one of my all-time favorite setups, the reach. All you have to do is reach towards your opponent's face. You don't even have to touch them. This causes them to blink, which disguises your entry and creates an opening, allowing you to travel and cover the distance to their leg. See, Joe actually blinks. Now I can cover the distance to his leg and gather it in my sweet, sweet little paws. When dealing with a bigger, stronger opponent, you're not relying on throws or bullying them with hand fighting. You'll be relying primarily on single legs, which are beginner level techniques. Case in point, here's one of my earliest students, Colin, hitting it at an open tournament after learning it just a couple months prior. Now that we've covered the stance and the setup, let's get into the takedown and finish. As soon as I get to my single leg attachment, we both start jockeying for position. Joe starts this foot feathering sequence where he's feathering his foot out and in. And depending on if his foot is out or in, that dictates what finish I have. So as he feathers his foot out, I begin to posture up. At this exact moment, Joe feathers his foot back in and begins to do what we call a jackknife. He jumps off of his free foot, grabs a collar tie in the back of my head, straightens his leg, which turns his body into a counterweight, bringing me down. Now my only option is to go with the momentum of his body weight and attempt a back double. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on that last sequence where Joe was feathering his foot inside and outside. It's actually a very common position and it's widely overlooked in grappling. Let's take another look at it. Here's a situation where the tables are turned. Joe has a hold of my leg. And as he secures my leg, I keep my foot on the outside. But as he begins to elevate it, I move my leg back inside. This keeps him from elevating my leg entirely. As you straighten your leg, that puts a lot of weight onto the arm. Usually my hand would come up and grab a collar tie, but I'm already so disconnected, it's not necessary in this position. Joe's arm is carrying all of my body weight and chooses to abandon the position entirely. All right, let's get back into the original sequence. My goal here is to reach across with my inside arm and secure his other leg, but Joe feels this coming and moves his leg away. I miss, and he brings his leg back into my body, pinning my arm to my body momentarily. I elect to posture up, knowing that this will cause Joe to post his free leg on the mat. Now that it's posted, my arm is free, and I can reach across and gather his free leg. Now that I have both legs secure, it's time to work up towards the body. But notice what Joe is doing here. Do you see it? It's incredibly frustrating, and it keeps a lot of people who are 90% finished on their shot from finishing. He's posting on my head, and even though I have his near leg secured and his far hip, him posting on my head here could unravel this entire takedown. But because I have an attachment on his far hip, This allows me to actually move my head away from the post, clearing it, and then my body slingshots to the back. Because of the size advantage, it's not likely I'm going to be able to lift Joe from here. So I begin to engage in a move that I call stick and spokes, where I wrap my far leg around Joe's corresponding leg and make a sticky hook behind his far knee. As I straighten that same leg and start to push forward with my rudder foot, the back foot, Joe is confronted with a stick in his spokes, driving him down to the mat. There's a fair bit of controversy surrounding moves that seem like the stick and spokes, but notice here I'm driving my weight forward, not laterally against the knee joint. All of our weight is pushing forward, which causes us to fall to the ground and keep all pressure and weight off the knee joint itself. Let's see the whole sequence one more time. Just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to the second sequence. Now there are a couple key differences here between the first sequence and this one. Let's see if you can spot them. Getting into the setup, what did you notice? It's very similar in terms of hand motion. But what did you notice about the feet? I'm reaching with my lead hand, the same as the first setup, but we're in opposite stance. Here we're in an open stance. In the second sequence, we're in a closed stance where we both have our left leg leads, whereas prior I had my right foot as my lead. I create an inside hook with my lead hand and step inside with my lead foot, the exact opposite of the first sequence. And that back foot is going to travel all the way to the front, so I end up in the exact same position as the first sequence. I just get there in an entirely different way. Now let's get into the takedown and finish. This is where things get really interesting. So being that we end up in the exact same position, Joe actually gives me the exact same reaction as soon as I end up on the leg attachment. He feathers his foot to the outside, and instead of posturing up like I did in the first takedown, I decide to do what's called an offensive whizzer, which causes Joe to post his arm and his body weight follows. This is a much quicker and efficient finish than the first sequence. And this is the name of the game when it comes to grappling and fighting, is making intelligent adjustments over time. See, I choose to posture up, Joe forces me down with a jackknife, and I have to go into this lengthy, long finish. And here I just use an offensive whizzer, which brings him to the ground immediately. Now, Joe is incredibly hard to keep down. He's very long and strong, and here again is that limp leg we showed from the beginning. Let's move on to the third sequence and see if I can make one final adjustment. What are you noticing here, right out of the gate? I'm gonna get stuck in this, essentially what is a human centipede position. Joe effectively gives birth to me, and we can finish the sequence. All right, let's take a look at the setup. So immediately here, Joe makes an adjustment. Instead of letting me set him up from the outside, he begins palming the top of my head. I don't like that at all. So what do? I start faking in return, and that immediately causes him to react. Now, I really want you to look at this. When you're going against larger opponents, they have a size and strength advantage. If I don't deal with that hand palm and start faking and come up with some kind of a strategy to get him moving and reacting to me, as opposed to me moving and reacting to him, he's gonna wear me out. When it comes to attributes, look at this. His arm is just about twice the length of my arm when he's posting on my head. I've got no chance to hand fight hand to hand from open with him. I have to start faking, and look what happens. He stops posting on my head entirely and starts reacting to my motion. This gives me space and time to set up a low single leg, cutting across from my double, my back double. So the entire roll up until this point, I've been faking just before I enter. So for this third and final takedown, I decide to fake, but then right before I shoot, I use no fake. Joe palms the top of my head, but because he's not posted, he's just palmed on the top, I time that post for me to drop for a low single. My whole right side is down in case, my whole left side is up and ready to move. And that's what allows me to reach across with my left hand to secure his leg and then double across with my right. My left hand is posted. My left leg is going to travel all the way forward following his momentum. I trade off with my hand, so my right hand is now free and able to double across my back double and capture his free leg. Now I have both legs wrapped up. I pull his weight forward. Now he's got such a height advantage. It's hard for me to work out from here. He's really got me tangled up. He does this interesting like back Kimura type situation where he locks my hand in place, and to get out of here, it takes me a little while to figure it out, but I realize I can just wrist roll my hand forward and that will release him from my grip, and now I can exit the human centipede position. My way back and then slingshot forward, covering with a body lock. Again, Joe is super hard to keep down. All right, this is just some bonus footage. I want to cover some hand fighting that happens here. Now, this is the end of the round where he's seen a bunch of different looks from me, and he's made some really nice adjustments. I'm trying to post and give him different looks to try to get to my leg entries. Yeah, look at that. Look how long that post is. I try to post from his post to get to a leg attack. He evades. He has a nice inside tie here, and I want you to pay special attention to what I'm doing. When you have a larger opponent, especially with larger, stronger opponents who have an inside collar tie and they're pulling you in, if you just put an over tie and make a fist and stick your knuckles right into the side of their throat, or their carotid, that is just a filthy ankle pick defense. We're going to go over that here in a second. But first, I want to talk about the hand fight. He reaches inside for a collar tie, and I lace my hand over top and put that fist right in the side of his throat, right in his carotid. And I straighten my arm. So now when he pulls my collar tie in, he's actually pulling my fist into his carotid. And here he starts to back up. He's trying to get my ankles to step forward so he can hit his ankle pick, or at least set up a shot. And I know if I just maintain my outside post in his carotid, he'll never be able to close the distance. So my arm is straight. And even though he makes contact with my leg, because my post is so secure, he's not able to pull me in. It's a very handy little hand fight trick to keep bigger people off your legs. Or people of any size, actually. It works well against people the same size, smaller, anyone. Now let's take a closer look at how to clear a tie, because what actually happens is early in the round, I create an inside collar tie, and Joe actually starts doing that outside post on me. And I know if he maintains that post, I'm not going to be able to set up any kind of shot. So I clear it. See, he's got the outside post woven in. I weave my hands to the outside and then snap his wrists down, clearing the tie. Now, let's take a look at that ankle pick defense. What allows me to hit this ankle pick defense? Again, it's the height of my stance. Joe needs to bring my head down to my knee, but my stance is too high. So that allows me to keep posture, look away for a moment, and in this sort of shuck by motion, his wrist falls right into my free hand. And watch the rotation of the feet. This is just a little detail here, you know, in grappling. This is sort of the exception to the rule of never cross your feet. There are these minute positions where breaking these principles is totally acceptable. Just rotating on your feet, looking away, capturing the wrist, and then floating to the back. This rotating on the feet motion is actually what allows me to take Daryl down in that highlight at the beginning of the video. And this isn't something that's really taught in grappling. It's something that's picked up from years of experience. But I capture his outside wrist when he goes to shoot. So when he goes to step up off his penetration step, his hand is so far away from his body that I can create immense leverage with it. So when he goes to step, I've already redirected his momentum, causing him to roll, and I can switch around and cover. By bringing attention to this often ignored position, my hope is that you can pick it up sooner and skip those years of experience and put it into your game immediately.
I'll have you know, Adam did not go this hard with me, I don't think. Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
It wouldn't be an honest roll narration if I didn't include Joe's shining moment of the round where he guillotines the absolute crap out of me.
Yeah, that was nice.
I got a scope attached to this thing.
Of all the techniques in existence, only a small handful are truly effective against the really big guys, or any size opponent for that matter, when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And if you don't know what they are, or even worse, you fail to organize them into a system, you'll waste a significant amount of time, energy, and effort in your training. That's why I created the highly reviewed Effective Takedown System, an A to Z course designed to be the only wrestling for BJJ course you'll ever need. ETS equips you with the techniques and confidence necessary to take down not only larger and stronger opponents, but opponents of any size. And it costs less than just a couple months of your monthly Jiu-Jitsu membership fees. I couldn't be more excited to share this valuable information with you guys, so if you want to be able to take down a larger, stronger opponent and save years of frustration in the training room, go grab your copy in the description and pin comment below. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay scrappy, guys.